Tomorrow morning early, I'm taking off for Dallas-Fort Worth Airport because I'm going to be in Fort Worth with the American Legislative Exchange Council broadcasting with Dwayne and our friend John Williams, who joins us. He's already there. How is the weather in Fort Worth, John?
Well, the weather isn't good, but I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to a really good week with about 1,200 of our closest conservative friends from around the country. I'm really excited to have you here with us, Hugh.
I'm very excited to talk to you about the game this weekend, John.
I knew you couldn't resist that. I knew it. 4 years was enough. I guess we had to let Ohio State win one, right?
I'm just so glad the burden is off my shoulders, but I looked at the new Rich States, Poor States. I'm not going to talk much about it right now. I want to talk about why people are in Fort Worth first. But I did notice that you worked it again. Ohio is, I think, 22nd and Michigan is 18, something like that. Somehow that worked out. How did that happen?
Well, I was actually just with Ohio Senate President Rob McCauley, who I think is going to be on the show later this week with you. And look out for April, and we're going to release the newest rankings for rich states, poor states, because after what Ohio did this last year with the flat tax and getting the rates down below 3% there on individual income taxes, even as a Michigander, I think Ohio is going to have a tremendous year when it comes to improvements in the rankings. So stay tuned for April.
Did you have a chance to watch the game on Saturday, John?
I had sick kids at home, and so I was not tuning in, and I guess it didn't miss a whole lot, right?
Well, they got a 6-point lead, and I had that pit in my stomach feeling, knowing that it would be another year with you having the mitten hand behind you in the background. Now I can look at it and be amused. John, tell people what ALEC is. Assume, because I just found out we have new audiences everywhere because of the addition of a cable system. What is ALEC, and why do we get together at least twice a year?
ALEC is the nation's largest organization of freedom-loving legislators who come together around the principles of limited government and individual liberty, free markets, federalism, those key American principles, to discuss and debate model policies, but more importantly, to go back and take those principles home. And so we educate America's state lawmakers, and we have something like 2,000 ALEC members across the country in every single state out there looking to make policy better, whether it's education reform or economic freedom or election integrity, energy independence. Those are some of our key issues. But I mean, ALEC is unique in this space, and our legislators every single day are out there getting some of the biggest policy wins for hardworking American taxpayers of any organization across the board. That's really our strength. And so getting together now, this is going to be a record attendance winter meeting. There's a lot going on right now, Hugh, but to have probably 1,200 plus here in Fort Worth to talk about those principles and about new model policies that they can take forward in their states potentially in 2026. It's really got everybody charged up here.
One thing I'm going to talk to people about when I get down there is the so-called Montana plan. Some friends have told me that Montana is trying to use their corporate law to ban corporate political donations, which to me is a disaster because I'm a free speech guy. Has that hit the radar of ALEC yet? A discussion, if only to discuss?
Well, a little bit. And, we actually have a full free speech center here at ALEC devoted to looking out for those kind of issues. So we're going to have a free speech roundtable here at the meeting. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's a part of the discussion. In fact, another one here that we just filed an amicus brief working with our friends there at the Buckeye Institute as they fight the potential abuses of the IRS, right? And the case in front of the Supreme Court right now. And so free speech is a huge issue. The protection against these donor disclosure requirements that have a chilling effect on individuals participating in the political process. I mean, we think these are core issues, and state legislators every day talk to us about how we can further the ideas of free speech in the 50 states.
I'm not surprised by much, but as I was looking at the current list over it, and you can go look at it, richstatespoorstates.com. And if you want to get the state's newsletter, go to richstatespoorstates.com to see the list. But if you want the newsletter, go to alec.org/Hugh. And Maine is in the bottom 10. I would move to Maine and become a resident there, except for their ridiculous anti-growth tax policy. Do they not get it, John? These blue states, do they not understand? People are not going to build lives there. with bad tax structure.
Well, yeah, you've seen it in California. You've seen it in all these high tax states where Americans are increasingly voting with their feet against those states. And in some cases, I think they wear it as a progressive badge of honor somehow, that they think they're soaking the evil rich, and they think that's somehow beneficial. But I mean, living there, I lived in Maine during college briefly, and you see that movement to the southern border towards New Hampshire, the live free or die state, without a personal income tax, without a state sales tax. People forget, and you wonder why states like New Hampshire are continually outperforming high income tax states in the region. It wasn't that long ago, and Maine was a no income tax state a couple of generations ago. And so seeing it deteriorate that much in a fairly limited amount of time, really concerning. But I mean, the data is so strong out there, and that's what we show every year in rich states, poor states, is how the states that value economic freedom, that avoid income taxes, that are doing their best that they can to get regulations off of businesses and actually have job opportunities. Those are the states where Americans continue to move. And that's, it's not rocket surgery, as I often say, as Art Laffer likes to say. I mean, this is basic common sense economics 101.
Of your 1,200 members of ALEC who are there, how many are newbies?
I think we're going to have at least 200 here that are first time attendees at an ALEC meeting. And obviously, coming off the election cycle, we had even more at our annual meeting this summer, which was their first big meeting in Indianapolis to attend since becoming legislators in the previous fall. And so we expect another big batch in 2026. Already hearing lots of great ideas of folks that may be becoming ALEC members if they're successful in the 2026 cycle. But the other thing that people often forget about, especially for those that haven't heard too much about ALEC in the past, is now we have 112 members of the current Congress, Hugh, who are ALEC alumni members from when they served in the states. We talk about them often on the show here. Jason Smith, chair of the U.S. House Committee on Ways and Means, that led the Trump tax reform effort. He was a key ALEC member on tax policy here when he was a state legislator. And so many of those individuals going on to huge things in Congress. Jim Jordan, Judiciary Chair, was an ALEC member when he was in the Ohio legislature. You could go on and on and on. And so the influence of ALEC as these issues around federalism especially are key, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, to preserve that really key American principle and ALEC principle of federalism. So important to have people involved in that in D.C. as well as we do at ALEC.
I'm very excited to meet some of the new people, but also to see some old friends like Senator Rucker from West Virginia. I don't know if Danny Perez is down there yet or if he's coming. I want to talk to him about redistricting. Is redistricting the buzz about whether or not to do it mid-cycle?
There's going to be a lot of talk about that, clearly, with our ALEC members being in the midst of those debates all across the country. I know Indiana just called their special session, kicked off this morning with the Indiana House and their new map of the Indiana congressional districts that they're proposing. So it will absolutely be a topic of conversation. We don't have model legislation on that area, but it's something with our new process and procedures task force, Hugh, that we created earlier this year that we've talked about to come up with some best practices around what redistricting can and should look like. I mean, there's certain states, as you know, like Iowa, that have done it very well for a long period of time, even on a nonpartisan basis, but do it with districts that actually rationally make sense and keep communities of interest together and stop breaking up of county lines and township lines. There's some common sense principles that I think will be at play at future ALEC meetings to discuss.
And last question. I was on Fox earlier today talking about the Minnesota swindle, where within the Somali community, 78 individuals, that number might go up. Now, that I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush. There are 80,000 Somalis or Somali Americans in the Twin Cities. 78 of them bilked the state out of $1 billion. Do you have anti-fraud legislation to help prevent this kind of entitlement fraud?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is something that we at ALEC, way before the discussion around DOGE was happening federally, we've been involved with our budget reform efforts and efficiency and audit work that we've done. And whether it's looking at performance audits or recovery audits of improper payments, this is part of our ALEC really toolkit when it comes to how states need to balance their budgets and get spending, and especially things like waste, fraud, and abuse under control. It's something that our good friend, Speaker Matt Hall from Michigan, who I think is going to be on the show later this week.
Oh,
That's
good.
how he designed Republican House budget was they cut $5 billion of spending. And one of the ways they did that was to really target the waste, fraud, and abuse that has become rampant. Not just, I mean, Minnesota's an unfortunate example recently, but it was so far widespread when it comes to especially programs like Medicaid and SNAP.
Now, I hope you prepare the speaker that he's going to be talking to a Buckeye fan, even though I went to his law school. Just get him ready, because I may go over the key plays on Saturday with him. He may be a little bit despondent unless he's a Sparty. John Williams, president, lead economist at ALEC. Thank you. Go to alec.org/Hugh, alec.org/Hugh.